Welcome to another installment exploring the nature of the human body. Our world is a perfect illusion, a virtual reality that is, however, on a much higher level than the one we know primarily through video games. Our world is much more colorful than our eyes can see, due to the frequency range of light that our eyes are capable of perceiving. But before we embark on our next search, I'd like to return to this relief that we saw in the last video. It comes from the Maya culture. Although it is very difficult to make out both the Mayan script and the Mayan reliefs, let's take a closer look at this photograph. Here we see two people interacting. Essentially, we can only see their heads and hands. The figure on the left is emerging from the snake. The snake is this being's spiritual avatar. The spiritual representation of the figure on the right cannot be identified with certainty, but I am sure it is the sun. Why do I think that? Take a look at these flowers. We'll see them again in a moment. A photo of the sun. Can you see the flowers there? What does that mean? We have returned to Voynich's manuscript several times. The female orbs come from strange flowers from the Earth's interior. These are people. More precisely, they are the embryonic forms of a human hologram, future angels. And it is likely that the oldest mitochondrial DNA encoded in these glowing orbs also comes from these flowers. I believe that this DNA carries within it information about the transformation of humans into angelic beings. We inherit this information only from our mother. Do you understand now why we say that the earth is our mother? Male orbs, on the other hand, come from the sun. Yes, it seems absolutely unbelievable and impossible, and it's hard to accept. But the truth is sometimes stranger than the wildest conspiracy theories, and I'm certainly not claiming to be right about everything. I'm just an observer. Try to set aside your preconceptions and the mainstream, accepted explanations, and just observe, quietly, impartially, and think about what you see. It's quite entertaining, and you might find that you're living a false life and are merely a puppet on a stage. These orbs come to Earth to learn. We call this incarnation, but it seems more as though this energetic orb is responsible for making the human body behave like a human being. It's as if it enters our bodies, does its work, and then leaves the body again. However, we cannot see these glowing orbs with the naked eye. To see them, we need a digital image. And the emerald tablets mention digital technology, describing it as a magic that allows us to see things our eyes cannot see. True virtual reality? And there is another, darker aspect to understanding why a human being, who is, by nature, a holographic being, becomes a physical body. This is connected to the sun and the biblical serpent, or dragon, and it is also connected to biblical sin. Take a look at all the medieval and modern illustrations. These demons essentially depict the biblical serpent, or dragon, and its minions. They are the shadows, as the emerald tablets call them, and it seems that this dragon-like entity is the chief puppeteer of our world. People were cast into the material world, and their understanding of the nature of the world and life was either completely erased or radically altered. Their souls were condemned to a cycle of forgetting, reincarnation, and relearning. This is the true cycle of life on Earth, the essence of reincarnation from the womb of Mother Earth. Are you wondering why it takes the form of the devil? Let's look elsewhere for a moment. Notice the likeness of the serpent and Eve. She is the woman who, according to the Bible, sits on the dragon and also represents our earth. Eve, the biblical serpent, the earth, and the sun are interconnected. They work together. The dragon, the biblical serpent that holds the sun in its mouth. It sends its seeds to earth and plunges the world into matter. These are the male orbs in the Voynich manuscript. This is one of the rock carvings in Dezhou, China. It depicts a dragon holding the sun in its mouth. Many emerge from the sun's rays. Here we see them in detail. In the center of the sun sits another man. He is a spiritual being whom Masonic illustrations refer to as Adam. And then there is the interaction between the snake and the sun in the Mayan engraving. Although it may not seem so at first glance, this too is our sun. A man with an erect penis guarded by a snake. The tree of life represents the earth. It is guarded by a dragon. And this is the tree of life as depicted in Sumerian art. No, it's not actually a spaceship. This work of art depicts the lid of the tomb of Kinich Janab Pakal at the ancient Mayan site of Palenque, showing the ruler descending into the underworld while the tree of the world grows from his body. The tree of the world represents the earth. The ruler is not a man, but is likely woman. Eve is depicted as the moon in Masonic illustrations, but the Bible states that the woman sitting on the dragon has the moon under her feet. It may therefore represent the earth's core. Notice that it is hung on a cross, and at the top there is a dragon, the sun, and the moon. Do you think that the same symbolism across the ages and civilizations is just a coincidence? It's the same as the legends of a global flood, which are the same everywhere in the world. And science now acknowledges this event. What about today? If you're interested in Masonic and other symbols, I can dedicate an entire video to this topic. Let me know in the comments. In some Masonic illustrations, we find a sun with a dark center. It appears to be depicted on the floor of the Denver Airport concourse as well. Sunlight is highly intense electromagnetic radiation in the visible, ultraviolet, and infrared spectrum, light that is invisible to the human eye. You know all too well how uncomfortable, even painful, it is to look directly at the sun. However, security and weather cameras can capture something we cannot see, a black spot on the sun. What is it? This image of the sun was captured in 2017. The circular aperture that covers the sun's disk on the lens suddenly shifted off-center for a split second. Where's the sun? All we see is a ring of fire with darkness at its center. So please explain to me where this object with the flickering grid in the background is located. Science certainly has its sources, but they do not come from the places it claims exist. This may seem boring and pointless to you, but it's important to revisit these phenomena, as they will be key to understanding what is depicted in the Egyptian frescoes. These images were taken in early 2011. We are witnessing a real-life biblical battle between angels and a serpent. You don't see him there? But he's not actually there anymore. In the book of Revelation, you'll learn that the serpent, or the dragon, was cast down to earth, and chaos will ensue. Here you can see the date the photo was taken, 2011. What does that mean? Yes, we are approaching the year 2012, when, according to the Mayan calendar, the world is supposed to end. How did the Maya do it? However, we need to correct this view slightly. The world is not ending, but at this point the countdown to the end of time begins. Some call it the New World Order, others call it the rise of humanity, but the truth is that, according to Plato, we are now living in an age of darkness. So are we expecting a major change? Absolutely, because the serpent no longer holds the sun, that is, the lion, in its mouth. And as David I says, the lion is no longer asleep. and the dragon is happily soaring through the sky. A quick recap before we move on to Egypt. A series of photos of the sun starting in January 2011. Until around March 2011, the snake was still in its position. The later photos you see are, what do you call that? Yes, they're fake. The images from after March 2011 are fake. NASA and SOHO are still using the same ones. They just update the data. Images that are 15 years old. What? And here we see a snake holding the sun. No, that really isn't a sun visor holder, and the date is wrong. But let's see how they continue to deceive us. There is no date listed here, but it certainly dates from before March 2011. Can you see how the snake has its wings spread out? The Maya called him Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. Science calls it mythology, but these ancient stories are based on fact. And this is a video from 2025. Another lie. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. It's time to move on to the place the Bible calls the square of the great city, Egypt. I have to go back almost to the very beginning of my career, when my videos didn't yet include voiceover commentary. I realize now that it's a shame, but I was still learning back then. Nevertheless, we can revisit those interesting topics, and there are truly many of them. If you're interested in an older video or don't understand its content, let me know in the comments and I'll create a voiceover for it. As you can see, the Nile River basin is very extensive, and when you look at the photo, you might wonder if it was artificially cultivated. Do you see a lotus flower there? I hadn't paid much attention to Egypt, except for the last 10 years. Egypt was everywhere. A bustling tourist destination, documentaries about its history, articles about amazing discoveries. Egypt simply seemed too hyped to me. The subject never appealed to me. But then something changed in light of the massive migrations that were beginning, the senseless policies, and the lies in the mainstream media, and I started to take a greater interest in what might be behind it all, and whether it has much deeper roots. And this is where it all began. I wonder if those people know what they're looking at? Take a look at Cairo, a city teeming with people and chaos. Trash that, for the sake of tourism, isn't allowed on the streets piles up in stinking heaps on rooftops. How ironic. This is today's advanced civilization standing side by side with the one that existed here many thousands of years before us. Forget about the pharaohs and the pharaonic dynasties. I don't need to spend much time introducing the cartouches. According to modern science, they bear the names of rulers. Yes, This cartouche also bears the name of a ruler, but it is not a pharaoh. This particular one belonged to Djedefre, who died around 2558 BCE. He is believed to have been the son of Khufu, the builder of the Great Pyramid. Today, researchers and non-mainstream archaeologists are suggesting that the pyramids are at least 30,000 years old. The Great Pyramid is mentioned in the Emerald Tablets, which are estimated to be 36,000 years old. So where does the truth lie? Are scientists missing something? However, Khufu did not build the Great Pyramid. The name Khufu comes from the name of the camphor tree, which was apparently used during the construction of the pyramids. You can find the author of the Great Pyramid in the writings of Hermes Trismegistus, better known as Thoth. Read his writings, you can find them online, and try to reflect on them. He speaks not only of the Sphinx and the pyramid, but also of the essence of the human being as a being of light. It is a well-hidden text. He is often depicted in Egyptian frescoes. Here, he is even shown alongside a lion, representing the sun, and an eagle, symbolizing the earth. These are representations in the spiritual world. By the way, when exactly did that miracle happen and the Rosetta Stone appear? Oh yes, it happened to be July 15th, 1799, and the lucky discoverer was none other than Pierre-François Xavier Bouchard. Pierre-François Xavier Bouchard, however, was no ordinary person. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a portrait of him. Here we see Jean-François Champollion, who in 1822 deciphered the hieroglyphic script using a copy of the stele, even though this is the part of the stele that is most damaged. I'll end the video here so it doesn't get too long and tedious. Next time, we'll take a look at both gentlemen, return to the cartouche and the Rosetta Stone, and delve even deeper into the subject. And remember, nothing happens by chance, because chance doesn't exist.